In this particular lecture, let's add some social media icons like the like, comment and share buttons to the page which we currently have. So in order to get these particular icons, you could simply go to iconfinder.com. So here we are into Icon Finder, and here I have to search for some icons. Like for the like button, let's say if you want to have the heart icon, I could simply go ahead, select that. You could choose a particular image which you want. So let's say I want this particular image. I could simply download this particular thing in a PNG format or SVG format, whatever I would like to get it in, and whatever size I want to get it in. I could simply go ahead, download that particular thing into a PNG format. I could simply go back to the project, go back to the folder where we have the images. So we have the images inside this images folder, or the static folder inside the users app. So I'll simply drag it and drop that particular image up in that folder. And let's say I want to change the name of this thing to something like, let's say, like.png. And once we have this particular like.png in there, our next job is to go ahead and actually add that to the index page which we have. So let's head back. Let's go back to the index.html, and we want to add that particular thing right after our image ends. So the image which we have ends in this div. So let's create another div right up over here. And this div is going to act as a container for holding all of our icons. So inside this div, I'll create another div and I'll call this thing as icon container, because this is going to hold all of our icons. And this is simply going to be an image, and the source for this thing is going to be the path, which is static, because currently the images folder is in the static directory for the users app. So users/images/ and the name of our image should be like.png. And let's ensure if we have that name. So if I go over there, we have the image inside static, users, images and like.png. So if I go ahead, let's test if the image would be added here. So if I hit refresh, okay, so we have some sort of an error here. I'm not sure why this is, because it says invalid block static. Okay, so this is because we have not yet loaded the static tag. So let's load the static tag at the top as well by saying load static, because whenever we are using the static keyword, whenever we are referring to a URL for static assets, you always need to load the static tag. And now if I hit refresh, okay, it says this should be the first tag. So let's make this tag as the first tag and the issue would be resolved. So always make sure that you have extends at the top. So now if I go back here, as you can see, we have this particular like icon right here, but as of now, you'll be able to see that the size of that icon is pretty big. So let's change that by going inside the image tag, and let's assign it a class, and let's say I want the width of this thing to be 5 and the height to be 5 as well. Now it will actually turn it into a much smaller like button which we have here, as you can see. But now this thing does not have any kind of space from the top and from the left. So let's fix that by styling up this particular container which we have, which is the outer container for the icon container. So I would say the class is going to add the padding on the x-axis to be 6 and padding on the y-axis to be 4. As soon as I add that, now as you can see, it's actually aligned pretty well. Now just like this particular image which we have, which is the like button, let's also add the comment and share buttons as well. So here I could go to Icon Finder, search for comment button, and we will find a button which is similar to the previous one. So let's say we go with a button which looks something like this. And some of the images over here are paid, but if you want free images, you could simply go ahead and you could toggle filters, change this thing to free. And for some weird reason, I'm not able to do that. So let me zoom out, and if I click on free, now I'll only get those icons which are free. So let's use this for now. Let's download this thing in PNG. Let's repeat the same process of actually dragging it and dropping it inside this particular images directory. So let's get that, put it up over here. Let's rename this thing to comment.png, and let's also get a share button or share icon as well. So I could say share, and let's use one of these things over here. So let's use this one because it looks sort of transparent. Let's get that in there as well. let's rename this thing to share.png, and there we have it. I could now go back, and here let's go inside the index.html and let's add the newly added icons. So I'll go to index.html right up over here, and I simply have to copy the image tag which we already have, because we simply have to add images with just the different names. So I could change this thing to comment.png and this thing to share.png. If I go back to the browser, as you can see, the buttons are now added. But now the problem is they are actually added on top of each other. So if I want to place them side by side, I simply have to add a flex here. Save this, go back. And now there's no space in between them. So let's fix that by adding a class gap3, which basically adds a gap of 3 for all the flex elements which we have in a flex container. So if I hit refresh, now as you can see, this is what it looks like. And you'll be able to see that the HUD button looks a little bit smaller, because I think we have downloaded a smaller size for that one. So it could be fixed by simply using a little bit larger image, but we are not going to work on that as of now. We just want to make this thing fully functional first. Okay, so once we have these icons, the next two things which are remaining to be added to the post are the post title and the post caption. So we are going to add the post title and post caption right after this particular div. So after this particular div, let's add another div. So this div is going to be the container for the post caption as well as the post title. And let's use the same class as which we have used here, which actually adds margin and padding to this particular things as well. And the first div which we are going to have here is going to be for post title. So let's say I simply add post.title in here. And for the second div which we have here, let's not add a div for the caption, let's add a paragraph instead. And let's say this thing says post.caption. And now if your code looks inconsistent and if it does not have a proper structure, you could simply use an extension called as prettier. But right now I've actually disabled prettier, because what prettier does is that it actually aligns the static tags and the block body and end block tags in such a way which is inconsistent with Django, and that might cause issues. So once you have written all the code, to clean up your code, simply use prettier to format your code in a better way. So we are going to do that pretty soon, but for now let's go ahead and let's style this thing up. So for this particular title tag here, I want the fonts to be bolder, so I would say font-bold. Let's make the text to extra large, and let's set the margin at the bottom to 2. And here, as you can see, we have the title and the caption for this particular image set up. And now let's style up the caption as well. So here for the caption, I want to add a class which is going to make it text of a slighter darker gray shade. So text gray with a shade of, let's say 700, and I want to say text base, which means I want a basic text and I don't want anything fancy in there. So as you can see, this is what the post currently looks like. So now we are actually done creating this particular page, and this page is going to render any new post which we are going to add here. And therefore let's get rid of the post user and post title from here, and we are pretty much good to go. So once we have styled up this particular index.html page or the home page for the user, in the upcoming lecture, let's go ahead and let's style up all the remaining pages which we actually have in our entire Django project. And if you don't want to go through the styling of these pages, I will also provide the source code for these pages in a different file. So you could simply go ahead and copy them as per your own requirements. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.